I'm Crystal Cox, and I'm a tax credit reviewer with the Division of Historic Preservation. This is one in a series of presentations designed to help you through the historic rehabilitation tax credit application process. This tutorial will focus on application materials and fees. So this seems to be something that confuses a lot of applicants, and therefore we see a lot of instances where applicants either submit too many or not enough of the required materials. So here is a breakdown of the rules. When submitting a federal application, everything must be submitted in duplicate. So 2 copies of everything is needed. This includes the complete applications themselves, the photos, the plans, maps, and everything that you submit as part of the application. It must be submitted in 2s. The reason for needing 2 of everything is that we keep a copy in our office in Baton Rouge and then send a copy up to the National Park Service in DC. Our office and the National Park Service need to have identical materials in case we need to confer with each other on a particular issue, and also so we'll have a mutual understanding of the building and the project. If you were submitting only a state application, so in other words, you're not applying for the federal credit at all, then only 1 copy of everything is needed. The National Park Service is not involved in reviewing the state applications, so the applications just need to go to one office. When an application is stacked, meaning an applicant is applying for both federal and state credits on the same project, the state application piggybacks off of the federal. What we mean by piggybacks is that on a stacked application, the federal is going to lead the process and the state app will be just an addendum to the federal. So in the case of a stacked application, you will still submit everything in duplicate for the federal, the same way you would if you were just applying for this program only. But for the state, you will only have to submit the first page of the application. There is no need to submit a full state application with all the additional pages describing the building and the work to be done to the building, and there is no need to submit a 3rd set of photos, plans, maps, or any of the other supplemental material. We will already have all of that information as part of our copy of the federal application. The only additional piece of information you would need for the state application is a map of the cultural district or a letter from the downtown development director showing that the building is eligible for the state commercial credit. This is because the state and federal programs have different eligibility requirements. The same rules would also apply if you were applying for all 3 programs. If you have a mixed-use building and are applying for both commercial and residential credits, both state applications piggyback off of the federal as well. You will just want to make sure that the federal Part 2 describes the work to be done to the entire building, both the commercial and residential portions. The other thing that seems to confuse a lot of applicants is the fees. Much of this confusion can probably be attributed to the fact that there have been several changes to this part of the process over the last few years. But here is how it works. No fees are charged with the initial Part 1 applications for either the federal or the state. Fees are not due until the second part of the application process, when you submit your Part 2 work plan. There is a Part 2 fee on the federal application and a Part 2 fee on the state commercial application. If you were applying for both credits, you will have to pay fees on both. These fees are based on the estimated cost of the project, which you must apply on the applications. In addition, more fees may be due at the end of the process, when you submit your Part 3. Whether or not additional fees may be due at the Part 3 level depends again on the final cost of the project. All fees due must be paid in order for the reviews to be completed. For the federal program, the National Park Service will email an invoice to whomever is listed as the contact and/or owner on the application. The owner or responsible party will pay whatever fee is due via pay.gov. The state office is not involved in this process at all. The payment of the federal fee is really the only aspect of this process in which the state office is not involved, and all transactions are done between the applicant and the National Park Service directly. And just a word of caution, it seems that sometimes these emails that the National Park Service sends end up in the applicant's junk or spam folders. Or if not, they're just overlooked because they're not expected. So if you submit a federal Part 2 application, you want to be aware that your invoice will be sent to your email address and that's how your invoice is going to arrive. So if you notice that you haven't received a copy of your approved federal application, you may want to ask yourself if you remember to pay the fee before you inquire on the status of the application. For the state, the fee is due upon submission of the application. So the application should be accompanied by a check for the required amount made payable to the Division of Historic Preservation. Our office is unable to accept credit card payments. A federal fee schedule is available on the National Park Service's website. Reviewing this will allow you to get an idea of what amount to expect when you're invoiced. For the state commercial program, a fee schedule and worksheet are available on our website. However, if you have any doubts about what is owed, even with this information, you can always call or email our staff and we can confirm the fee that is owed. It's always better to ask if you have any doubts about the amount owed, because if the check you submit to us is wrong, we'll have to send it back to you and ask for a correct one. And finally, the state residential program requires a flat fee of $250 due with the submission of the Part B application. No additional fees will be due once this is paid. The procedure is the same as with the state commercial. A check should be submitted to us, made payable to the Division of Historic Preservation, along with the application. One thing to make note of, if you are applying for both the state commercial and state residential programs, in the case of a mixed-use building, the residential fee will be waived and you will only have to pay the state commercial fee. This is also if you are applying for all three programs on the same building. In this case, you will have to pay both the federal and state commercial fees, but not the state residential. And that concludes this tutorial on application materials and fees. Thank you for listening. If you have any questions about the information presented here, please give us a call at the number provided.